Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Looks like Bitcoin is making a move here, breaking through its local resistance there at about 88.4 and moving towards that 90K range here. Decent chance we see a rejection there, but we're going to talk about the potential of reality for that. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment below if you get a chance. Really deeply appreciate you doing that every single time you watch my videos. We can see here Bitcoin dominance is increasing and stablecoin dominance as well. That's generally a favorable sign when both are moving concurrent with each other and money's flowing away from stablecoin. Basically just mean money is coming into the market. And we can see that here as well reflected with our overall volume in the last 72 hours. Pretty significant amount of volume here, and that's a very, very good sign. There is some areas of open interest down below, but more specifically 86.5 is a pretty significant buy order. I don't think we're going to see that necessarily, but it does imply that that 86 to 87K range is heavily guarded. We're going to take a look at some liquidation here in just a moment as well, and also touch on the Fear and Greed Index slowly increasing with, of course, some CryptoNet ETF inflow or outflows. We want to talk about that too. Let's take a look. All right, folks, before we jump into the backend data, just want to clarify, we're going to be taking a look here specifically at the lower time frames, just to kind of get some perspective for the next couple of days here. Tomorrow is a holiday here as well in the States, so just keep in mind, oftentimes trading conditions become kind of stagnant during those time frames. So just try not to get over crazy with trading tomorrow. Good news is there's a lot of volume flowing in to Bitcoin. So once more, last 4 trading days have been pretty solid with an increased amount of volume. That kind of shows sustainability in the 85 to 90K range. So the propensity of us maintaining this range is higher because of that. Now we look here at open interest. Sorry, this is the order blocks. We can see 89.5 to 90,000. We have larger buy orders, sell orders there at that level. A big buy order here at 88,000 even. And when I looked at this earlier, of course, it was right. 86.5 was at the secondary amount. But the key takeaway here is that the low 80K range is kind of that support. We've kind of started to identify that here recently with our range. And also that 90K range is still at resistance. So we're somewhat in this transition, the middle of the pack here, so to speak. And oftentimes it's best to kind of see how that range is established or test it if we can break or kind of hold. It depends on what happens here, of course, but we're going to talk about that on the charts course. So take a quick look here at liquidation, just kind of clarify. We can see a lot of liquidation more so down to the downside, really close to about 88K. So we got more local liquidation below the price. And we look at the last 7 days too, there's still more to the upside. As mentioned previously, that 89.9, basically $90,000 range is a heavy concentration there of liquidation. We're probably more likely to go just a little bit higher before the price stalls out. And I'm expecting 90,000 to provide some resistance for us just because, again, that's that macro support range previously, but also psychological resistance. Okay, it's just kind of one of those large round numbers. There's always a tendency of the price retracing or bouncing in those ranges depending on the direction. So taking a quick look here at CryptoNet ETF inflow this week, while it's not monstrous, it is definitely in the green, or at least 2 out of the last 3 trading days, right? So that's a good sign. Keep in mind this is a lag. This doesn't include so far today and yesterday, but it does tell us that we're starting to see that momentum shift, and liquidation delta is shifting too. We saw that yesterday as well, where we have more longs than shorts in the market right now. That basically implies you shouldn't be shorting against that until we see that significant resistance level tested. So let's go ahead and take a look at that here really quick. This is Bitcoin. I just updated this here, just kind of give us some perspective. I'll get a quick little refresh here with that last candle wick up here. We can see 90,000 is that current area of open interest. Specifically 89.5 to 90,000 is more that range there, but the key takeaway is it's right there at that round number. This here, liquidation long delta, is at 4.5. Actually, it's probably increased a little bit. Let's go ahead and refresh just a little bit. We can see it jumped up to about 4 billion. That's a good sign. Really, 2 billion, 4 billion, doesn't matter too much. The fact of the matter is that we're on the right side of tracks there. There's more longs than shorts in the market, and that generally implies continuation potential, right? When we look at this liquidation left-hand side, we got some pretty scared short positions right now. Half of them we just got liquidated at 89.5, a really big chunk at 90,000. So this leads me to believe 90K is a distinct probability in the near future. We may see the price pull back between now and then, but I'd say sometime this week we're going to see 90 to 91,000 just based on liquidation alone. Let's take a quick look here at the Bitcoin chart and just kind of recognize that, well, we're $400 away from 90K. But when we look at the macro structure, I just want to clarify, this isn't super macro. This is just kind of the daily time frame, but the bigger picture is letting us know that we are shifting some gears. We're starting to see a stochastic swing higher here, or continuation with that. We also have the money flow index starting to increase while it's still quite low because we saw so much selling pressure. That's good in comparison to the recent 14 candles. So all that said, RSI is back up over 30. These are all generally positive signs. Now, are they like phenomenal signs letting us know we're going to the stratosphere or the 100,000 plus? No, but it does tell us short-term continuation potential is much higher, right? Now, where we're going to see some rejection levels, let's go ahead and see if we can double check and identify that. 4-hour time frame, it's hard to really say. We have some local shelves here, like 93,000, for example, was that local resistance and support range where we saw some wicks down and some wicks up. It couldn't quite pass that threshold. So that should be the next area of consideration. We also want to look just generally here at the, let's actually look at this guy here and pull up the 30-day, just to get some quick perspective on chunks of liquidation. We can see, yeah, right around between 93 and 94,000, there's some larger areas there outside of 90K. So I would say that we're seeing some potential resistance at 93,000 if we break through 90. Now, I think 91 is probably the initial area there of rejection just based on liquidation with that local area of liquidation last 7 days. But for the most part, we could see a run between 91 and 93 as a better case scenario between now and this weekend. All that said, though, 4-hour time frame is super converging. So we got the 20 and the 50-day SMA all consolidating above the current point of control at 87,000. So had I been awake, a couple hours earlier this morning and not taking care of my child, I probably would have considered a long 87K just based on that consolidation at that nice area of confluence. We're also maintaining above 50 in the RSI. Stochastic's now swinging up. Money flow index increasing. These are all very, very positive signs. Obviously, the price is going up now, so it's easy to say that. But in hindsight, those were things I would have identified and considered a long position with. Right. So to give you kind of some perspective as to what I like to look for. At this point, though, generally speaking, I don't like to be late to the party. So taking a long right here leading into a resistance doesn't make a ton of sense for me. Because once more, that's breakout trading, and breakout traders are super unsuccessful right now based on how many bearish type of scenarios we've seen where the price looks great for a moment and then it just turns right around. So the safer play right now would be to wait for this local high of 88,400 to be retested and to potentially consider a long there, or possibly short between 90 and 91,000, but that's a higher risk consideration. Once more, liquidation delta is too high to the upside in the green for the most part, and it's just not really worth taking a trade to the downside, at least trying to force a trade. Because right now, if you're taking a short, you're forcing. If you're taking a long, you're kind of at the top right now. So me personally, I don't really love situations like this. Is a transition. I like to wait for a bullish backtest of that previous high, working as a new low. That's what I'm going to be looking for. 88.4 is my tentative target, or 91 to 93,000 for a potential short. These are just rough estimates for the most part. We're in that transition. Again, it's best to generally wait until you hit one of those two areas first, and always have a game plan before you consider trading. Like right now, if you're feeling like, oh, I'm missing out, I'm going to take a long, it's the wrong thing to do. Sometimes it'll work out, but for the most part, you're going to get burnt out or burnt on those trades. But at this point, Bitcoin's looking pretty strong. You're better off not trying to short against it, even though it is very tempting in the 90 to 91K range. If you do insist on doing so, ensure you secure profits before the price pulls back to its local high, which is the new low of potential of 88,400. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Comment below. All right, folks, take a quick look here at Ethereum, double checking the side-by-side comparison with Bitcoin first, just kind of see how we're performing, and then moving on over from there. Quick congrats to our community members for some nice profits on our Ethereum long position there. We took 20%, 21% in 8 hours last night. We jumped in from what, 29.20 to roughly that 29.90, just below that 3K mark. Same thing with Solana 2 here, good 40% there from a day trade we took 5 days ago. All right, so now when it comes to Ethereum, the side-by-side is important because we were pulling back here to establish basically a retest of the previous high range, right? You can kind of see that little candle wick here that effectively bounced from there. That's roughly where we got in, just a little bit above. All that being said, when you see those kind of patterns, that's a good sign it's showing strength versus Bitcoin. Now, obviously, if you kind of compare them identically right now, it looks very similar. But yesterday, the price action pulled back to its local high, where Bitcoin is retracing to a previous, basically establishing a lower high. So those are things that are good to identify when trading altcoins. Just want to kind of bring that to your attention. Ethereum is still looking very strong versus Bitcoin. Especially being up over 3,000, we can maintain above this range for a day or two. I think there's a solid chance we go much higher. Let's take a quick look at the back end here for ETH and just kind of clarify the right-hand side. Open interest is as follows. Looking at 29.20, that's that heavy concentration of support right there, exactly where our entry was yesterday. And then 28.80, 2860 as basically a tertiary level there of support. So those are 3 areas of support below the price. When those areas are heavy below, it generally implies you're going to find more strength going to the upside. Right? That's exactly why we didn't short at 3,000, which is a tempting consideration. I get it, but longing into resistance also isn't great. But when you have confirming factors and liquidation delta is high at 5 billion, like we're seeing right now, that's generally a favorable sign. Furthermore, when we look at liquidation here, we can see, I'll just go ahead and refresh this, is just from earlier, those shorts here at 3,000 just got absolutely destroyed. So that wick up to 3030 just swept probably about 15 billion in liquidation. That's a pretty big chunk. There's still a lot more left between now and 3100. So if you have a long position open, maybe adjust your stop loss higher. We may not hit 3100. That does require Bitcoin to hit 90 to 91K. But if that were to happen, distinct chance we're going to be in good shape there. Speaking of good shape, we can see our descending trend. While we haven't fully broken the trend line and or the 20-day SMA, they should run oftentimes concurrent with each other. We're still looking pretty decent here because of how much overextension we saw on the downside. We're seeing a stochastic swing to the upside, as well as money flow index starting to increase. Once more money is flowing into Bitcoin. While it's not flowing specifically into Ethereum, it's flowing into altcoins in general. And this is one of those coins that's actually looking stronger than most, even though it's not absorbing that significant amount of market capitalization. So those are all very positive signs, things I like to look for. Hypothetically, if you're late to the party here and you want to try to consider a long, we got our previous high here at about 2960. That could be a good consideration for a long if we see that bullish back test. Once again, that's generally what I like to look for in these continuation patterns. We have a lot of volume below the price action, obviously much lower, but in general, there's good outliers there. And then furthermore, too, we can see all of our moving averages below the price action converging at roughly 2,900. So 2,900, 2,920 with open interest. And then, of course, that 2820 support for the largest amount of open interest shows that we have a lot of sustainability in this current range below the price if we were to see the price pullback. So those are good areas to consider. DCA between 2850 and 2950 as a close approximate are 2 good areas to think about trading this coin. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know. If you're looking for a new exchange or possibly just want to help support the channel, Bitunix has got you covered. We've been partnered with this exchange for over 2 years. It's been our fan favorite for our community, and the reason why is because they take really good care of you. They offer trading reward bonuses as well as a reduction in fees. Best exchange I would recommend at this point. Link down below for more information. All right, folks, jumping on into the Solana chart, just do a quick comparison here, side by side, see where we're at. And we can kind of recognize that Solana is actually looking a lot better. It's a different structure because we have a previous higher range there of 144. We're getting close to that level. Keep in mind, we may see an initial rejection in that range if the price were to continue to progress higher up here. So just an area kind of to think about, be mindful of. Consider securing profits between now and 144. If you're in a long position, try not to get super greedy. While we can see that Bitcoin is pushing a lot harder, Solana is not quite as strong of a candle versus Bitcoin. So that does lead me to believe that we may not see a push towards, a break through that local resistance, just because we need volume to increase. All that said, open interest does reflect resistance at 140 to 142. Those are the local highs, as well as liquidation delta shifting bullish. Of course, that's the same narrative for most coins. And of course, also 140 to 142 with liquidation. I would actually venture to guess that may be fully swept here. Let's go ahead and double check. Majority of that has, about half of that has. So we got just a little bit more liquidation there. So I'm thinking or leaning more towards, I don't even want to propose the thought process of a short position because generally speaking, we're in a short-term ascending trend. You want to let that continue. But hypothetically, a scalp from 144 to the local range of 140, 138, that may be a good consideration as well. Just kind of shooting from the hip here, of course, but for the most part, when it comes to this coin, it is looking and breaking bullish rather, but it hasn't fully confirmed yet. All right, we need to break this range here to kind of get above that. Good news is from a daily candlestick closure perspective, we can see 141 is that previous high. So maintaining 141 to 145 in the next 24 to 48 hours should put us in a better position to progress higher up because we're proving that we can sustain that upper range and more likely to break through that resistance. Furthermore, too, we can also see stochastic MACD. I have a stochastic here that's a little bit more laggy than the typical one, but it's actually better because it gives you more firm indications. What I'm getting at here is that RSI is coming up closer to 50 in the RSI, which is good, but we're not there yet. We're not great. All right. So I just want to make sure that you understand that, a couple of nice days of green price action doesn't mean we're way back on track. We got a lot of ground to cover, but this coin does have propensity to do well. And generally speaking, I feel like it should do well, but again, feelings don't really belong in trading here. So based on what we're seeing here from lower timeframes, continuation is more likely. Right. Just know the macro structure for most coins in the market right now, especially Bitcoin, hasn't broken bullish yet. So do not attach yourself to a mindset that we're going to the moon, right? That's just not the right thing to do. All that said, dollar cost average as you see fit. I've added to my Solana bag in the 120s to 130s. Feels pretty nice to be able to do that because I don't think we're going to see these kind of price points again for a while. Obviously, once we start to progress closer to 200. Between now and then, though, just average in if you can. But if it's a leveraged position, maybe consider waiting because once more, we're transitioning towards a resistance, but it's too late to try to take a long because there's only a few dollars left worth of profit here. Once more, it depends on how much you trade, but those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know. All right, folks, taking a quick look here at SUI. Let's go ahead and start with a side-by-side comparison. This coin has been pumpy and dumpy lately. As per usual, this coin does have a tendency of responding that way to the price action. So generally speaking, it is good, but there's still a significant fair value gap below the price. And if you kind of compare this with Bitcoin on the left-hand side, you can see that the SUI isn't really overperforming. It's kind of performing in its range, but kind of stuck on stupid between 148 and roughly this 156 range. Okay, just based on the 4-hour time frame. So for the most part, this doesn't mean it's bad and this coin is looking terrible. It just doesn't. It's just telling us that it doesn't look great, right? And generally speaking, trading a coin that doesn't look great, regardless of what your sentiment is generally a bad idea, right? You don't trade a coin because it's your favorite and you want to force a trade. You trade it because it looks good specifically versus Bitcoin, but also on its own. So let's go ahead and see if that's even the case, right? Because just because it's a side-by-side comparison that's kind of funky doesn't mean it's not going to do well. It just tells us that it may not be worth trading because it's just a funky chart. And I generally don't like to trade the choppy behavior. So until this coin establishes a specific direction, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Either way, it has broken moderately bullish. It's just hard to trust that one nice strong 4-hour candle. We can see 150 and 159 are those two areas of potential resistance or support. We're right in the middle of that range though. We're at 154. Liquidation delta is jumping all over the place, so you can see it reaching almost a break-even state here. And then we look at liquidation here too. There is a significant chunk of liquidation above the price. So this does lead me to believe that further upside makes more sense based on too many people trying to short this coin. That's generally how things work, especially with this coin. It does have a propensity of running towards liquidation zones. 4-hour time frame does show we have a fair value gap as low as 140. That would be a better case scenario to try to get in if we were to see a pullback, just based on that being that previous low range. And obviously, once again, 150 just in general, that was our previous area of open interest, but I'll go ahead and remove that for now since that has since changed. All right. Let's go ahead and see here. Descending trend, still haven't broken. 4-hour time frame, we'll look at that next, but the daily time frame is still not great. Most coins are seeing a similar behavior here, but RSI is slowing pressure and slowing down. So it's just such a sold off coin here recently that the daily time frame is taking a while to catch up. Okay, and it's going to be like that. So once more, macro structure is terrible for SUI. When it comes to the 4-hour time frame, we're still below this short-term descending trend line, or well, it's kind of more of a macro trend from October 26th. It's basically 30 days ago. We were at 272, and the price has since established lower highs and lower lows. Until that trend breaks, you maybe want to reconsider trading this coin. 4-hour time frame, once more though, still looking good, as most coins are right now. We're seeing a nice little bounce off that 50 range for the RSI, and of course, stochastic swinging down as the price continues to range. Generally speaking, when the RSI maintains above 50 and you continue to range bound, that the likelihood of breakout is higher to the upside. So I think 160 to 170 seems much more practical than seeing 140 here. Based on the fact that Bitcoin's doing well, we can close above 90K for Bitcoin today. I think SUI will continue to run. Just know this coin is extremely volatile, especially at its current price point. And with that volatility, just because it's not something I want to trade doesn't mean you can't. Just make sure you trade with respect of the market and adjust your stop loss into profit. There's nothing worse than being in the green on a trade and then going deep red, right? Don't get greedy. That's kind of the concept. Either way, that's kind of where we're at there for SUI. Hope that helps. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a quick look here, of course, at XRP. And just on the back end, I want to kind of recognize that I've been fairly well bullish in this coin for some time. Its structure is looking good. We've broken our short-term descending trends. It's generally performing better than Bitcoin in most cases. Right now, it's underperforming versus Bitcoin based on the simple fact that most money is flowing into Bitcoin right now. The Bitcoin dominance chart's going up. The percentage, and of course, XRP, while it's absorbing some market capitalization, it's not like a ton. Okay. So having said that, we have a general range here right now for the moment, 217 upwards of about 225. So breaking that range in either direction will tell us a lot. I'm a little bit leaning more towards still getting in at the 210 mark because there's a fair value gap below the price. This significant amount of volume there that has only come, like only half that profit's been claimed. Keep in mind, folks, that people like you and I are not adjusting the price in this coin. It's specifically those market makers, and they see a lot of money in there, and they're going to wait for the price to go up so that way they can sell, sell, sell. So just some friendly advice: be careful. Take it along just yet until the range is essentially broken. I'm still wanting to wait a little bit longer for a trade that may not happen in the lower, the 210 range, 210 to 215. Mainly, I feel that way because there's a lot of open interest below the price, which is generally favorable. If we look at the liquidation delta, it is still in the green, right? So betting against this coin is a bad idea. You don't want to short right now, even though it is very tempting. And if we look at liquidation here, I'll just kind of get a quick little refresh. A lot of liquidation above the price is getting hit here, that 225 chunk. It's probably about $1 billion in liquidation. There is an extra 1 to possibly 2 billion between now and 230. So 230 seems very practical. I'd be more interested in a short at 230 to 240, just based on the simple sense that that liquidation zone will be swept. It's very common for price action to sweep the previous liquidation and to establish a higher high, trick people into late longs, and then the price comes right back down. Okay. Now, I'm not proposing we're going to see anything crazy on this coin. I think sub $2 right now is less likely, but we can't rule it out. Bitcoin runs towards 85,000 or less. XRP, you bet your butt, it's going to go ahead and pull back too, right? So all that said, daily time frame still under our descending trend. We are in a position right now where we are actually testing the 20-day SMA, so we're maintaining right above that level. It's a pretty good sign, ultimately. That's good. It doesn't mean we've broken bullish by any stretch, but it does tell us we're slowly starting to shift that momentum. 50 on the RSI still has yet to be reclaimed, but it's getting close. Stochastic swinging up, money flow index fairly low. And the 4-hour time frame is basically just kind of letting us know, once again, we got this range of 217 to 225 with a lot of volume above the price here, right at the current 225 range. So that's like the point of control that is basically a resistance range-ish for us. So we got, the longer we spend in this range, the better. But if we can't reclaim 225 and close above that in the next day or two, I think pullback would make sense, especially if Bitcoin were to retrace. If Bitcoin doesn't pull back, then XRP is probably more likely to continue higher. It has a tendency of moving consistent with Bitcoin in a lot of ways. For right now, though, most signs are pointing up, and you don't want to try to bet against this coin until it cannot, if it spends too much time right now in this current range, then I would say maybe consider a short, but it just feels like it's too early to do that, and it's too late to long into a resistance. So that's kind of the common theme here today, folks. Everything we've looked at basically tells us that we're in a position where we want to wait for either a little bit higher of a price point once those liquidation zones have been swept short, or to wait for those fair value gaps below the price to get filled first because the price moved too fast and hasn't pulled back yet. So those are just kind of my thoughts. I don't like trading transitions. I like to wait for an established direction to be created. And right now we're almost there in both ways, right? So hopefully that makes sense. I described that correctly. Thanks again for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.